Hey everybody, this is Reza.
This is Sandy.
Welcome back to episode 34 of the Stone Cold Sober podcast.
It's good to be back after quite a bit of traveling.
Yeah, it's been a long
Um,
long week for you, but I've been really excited to hear about everything. So I've heard the San Francisco update, but uh, our listeners obviously haven't. So do you want to give us the update on that?
yeah, so when we last recorded on that Wednesday, I was packing up and getting ready to fly out. Um, so the first part of the trip was to San Francisco, and that was Thursday to, was it Sunday? It was Sunday, yeah, because I landed Monday at like 1 in the morning.
Right.
Um, I landed at 10 p.m. Pacific time, and she picked me up. It seemed like everything was happening. Like we were texting a little bit before I took off, saying like, "Hey, I'm flying out. I'll let you know when I land." And she said, "Oh, I'll totally pick you up. I live close." And it still didn't feel real until I landed. I got curbside, and she picked me up.
Yeah.
That's when things started to get feel a lot realer. Um, when she pulled around the car, she got out of the car. She looked great. Um, and then when she opened the trunk for me to put my bag in, I noticed an air mattress. And that's when I didn't text you immediately, but that was one of the first texts I sent you.
Yeah, it
And I
was.
go, level one boss, the air mattress. Um, but which is fine, right? Because I didn't want to presume. It shouldn't be something that I assumed one way or another. Was it something that I was disappointed in? Sure, but
Yeah.
it wasn't something that totally killed it. She lives in this beautiful, beautiful building in downtown San Francisco. Not like totally downtown, but she pays. She's definitely in one of the nicer buildings in town for sure. Super dull apartment. She's got like a parking garage below her building. All the cars are either Teslas or Rolls Royce Phantoms, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, the BMW i8. Like it's a nice building. Um,
Yeah.
there was she took me around state of the art gym, conference centers, yoga studio, heated pool, two heated like roof decks. It was really really nice.
Sounds like a
She
nice place to
lived
live.
yeah she lived in a studio, but it was like a super adultish studio,
Okay.
like really well furnished and all that. And so when we got there, she cooked for me, and that was sort of a nice touch.
Nice. What did
Uh,
she cook?
she cooked a stuffed pasta with
Okay.
sea scallops and in a mushroom sauce.
Nice.
She's a great cook. She loves to cook. She says she's a great cook. We opened up a bottle of wine immediately. And this was like, Sandy, you got to grow up and you got to learn how to drink wine. Um, I will
Do
say
you,
though that I did drink a good amount of it. But I don't know if I liked it because she was drinking it and liked it, or if I actually genuinely liked it.
I see. I was gonna say, so when you drink, which I know you don't do very much of, what do you typically drink? Is it beer or?
I don't like beer too much. I kind of like this thing called the Moscow Mule, which is ginger beer, which I love ginger beer. I love ginger beer more than I love ginger ale. It's just more gingery ginger ale.
Yeah.
But I like the Moscow Mule is what either vodka or gin, uh, with ginger beer and like either like lemon juice or lime is like super easy to make.
Yeah.
That's one of my go-to drink. I also really like a gin and tonic.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't like darker alcohols or liquors. Whiskeys, bourbons, ryes, like those are a little bit harder for me to enjoy.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but she so we opened up a bottle of wine. She showed me this vape pen of hers. And we started taking hits of that immediately. Um, so I got pretty loaded pretty fast.
Yeah.
It was great. She kept saying like it was really great that I was in front of her. She couldn't believe that I made the trip. It was something. It felt really surreal. She ended up taking me to the rooftop, and we sort of laid there under this heat lamp, staring out into like the the San Francisco skyline. And I asked her, "Are you seeing anyone right now?" And I figured, I wasn't artificially building up the suspense but it was something that I felt would be better asked in person. Um,
Right. So you
and I
didn't
just
ask her, you didn't talk to her about any of this before you came.
correct.
Okay.
Uh, and then she said that she was seeing two people.
Mm.
Um, she said started in April, and another person was pretty recent. One of the guys, the guy that she was seeing since April, owned his own sort of production company, and then get this, the other guy that she was seeing had just sold his company for $2.1 billion, and that's sort of like just this whole new world that I've
Right.
never really had access to or exposure to. And that's sort of like an out of body experience, really, to say that you're rubbing shoulders with people who are selling their company for billions of dollars.
Right.
Um, I asked her though if she considered herself taken, and she answered that, while she didn't feel taken, she definitely wasn't single. Um, I did say it's one of the reasons why I came out here to see you. This question of whether you were seeing anyone, and if you weren't, what might happen.
Right.
But she replied that she said that she thought we were the type of people that respected each other's space. It wasn't, and she didn't say that combatively. She definitely just brought it up like, if you were in a relationship, I wouldn't do anything, and if I was seeing people, uh, then like you wouldn't try anything, which is fair. But because I was too loaded, I
Uh-huh.
think I didn't pick up on the fact that she said that, when I asked her if she considered herself taken or not, she gave a sort of wish wash answer. And I think that could have been a moment, if I chose to do anything, that would have been one of the moments to try something.
Huh, interesting. I
That's what
see.
I think. What do you think so far?
I don't think it's a bad thing that you didn't try anything, you know? Like w- you clearly came into this with an open mind. If something can happen, then it'll happen, but you also came in, but you didn't have any um major expectations either. So if you would have tried something, it could have just put a damper on the entire trip. Like I think the way you did it, I don't even think it's really playing it safe. I think it was probably the right call.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
what I'm
think I
thinking.
agree. I think I agree with the way you handle it. You keep it friendly. I mean, obviously there can still be something there in the future, but
Right.
keep things as is for now,
Sure.
and just enjoy the rest of the trip, right? Which
Right.
I'm assuming is how which is how it went, right?
Yeah. So the next day, she had to work a little bit in the morning. So she did make some breakfast. And she works from home, so she kind of went into her room for a little bit.
Okay.
I definitely started drinking more of the wine from the previous night and started smoking super early. So by around like 9 o'clock, when it's like noon out in the East Coast, but like 9 o'clock my time, I'm like pretty baked. Um, we headed out to grab some lunch, and that's when I came into contact with this thing called a Sushirrito, which absolutely blew my mind. It was like a sushi roll and burrito hybrid.
Yeah.
Um, it I I took a picture and I'll post the my Instagram link in the description, but that thing was absolutely revelatory. I had never experienced anything like that before.
What kind
Um,
of role was it?
uh, mine was mine was salmon or something.
Okay.
It was cooked though. It wasn't raw.
Yeah. Okay.
It might have been tuna actually. Now that I think about it. Um, but it was really really good. I was a big fan of it.
It looked good. Tell you
Yeah,
that
right.
much. It looked good.
Um, well, we walked around after that, and then we sort of went back to her place, and we met up with some people. But then we decided to go out to dinner, me and her.
Yeah.
And something I noticed was that everything in San Francisco is pretty casual. Everyone's walking around in shorts, t-shirts, flip flops, not basketball, baseball caps, and that's a pretty big differentiator between New York and San Francisco. In San Francisco, everyone's kind of put together pretty well. Even if you're quote unquote casual, you still
Yeah.
have a pretty like tailored look. When we went to dinner, um, and it was a nice place we went to. Like I just wore, chinos and Oxford like I normally do. But out there, guys were going out in cargo shorts, like ratty t-shirts. People were wearing like baseball caps inside the restaurant.
Didn't we talk about your attire last podcast and like what you should bring in? You were asking whether or not you should take a suit.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, right. I'm
Can you
glad you
imagine?
took what you took because yeah, if you took a suit, like
Oh
you'd be
God, I
like,
would have I would have looked,
am
looked like
I
a fish out of water.
right?
Yeah, I would have looked so weird. Um, but oh, what was also interesting because of the drought that's going on the West Coast right now, restaurants aren't allowed to serve water unless you ask for it.
Really?
So yeah, so like they won't come and pour you water if you don't ask for it.
I see.
Which I totally asked for everywhere I went. But I
Yeah,
thought that was
yeah.
an interesting little experience. Um, and after dinner, we ended up going to this birthday party. And she connected me with a lot of cool people. And that's also something that was very different. In San Francisco, it felt like people were really open and eager to connecting, uh, like building out a network.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like, "Oh, I'm working on this. I'm working on that. That seems really cool." Out here on the East Coast, it seems like so much more of a chore to have to connect people. It always just seems like it seems like either people are much more protective of their network, or when people go out, they really don't want to like have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Like leave your work at work essentially.
Sort of. Um, so so that was sort of a nice change. We ended up going to an after party, and I didn't get home until 7 a.m.
Oh Jesus.
So that's 10 a.m. my time. Dude, my body was trashed.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
was
could see that.
so gone. I was so far gone. We woke up at 1 p.m., which is like
Oh,
4 p.m. That's how
wow.
late we woke up. Like I just didn't have it in me to do anything. We woke up. We both woke up really late, and then we made our way into the Mission, and we ate at this place called Farolito, which is this taqueria. I also sent you a photo of that, my pretend food baby. Um, and that was one of the best burritos I've ever had. It was a breakfast burrito, and I had never had a breakfast burrito until that point. And let me
Yeah, I've
tell
never
you,
had one.
it's God's gift to man. It's it was too good. This
What's in it? What's in the breakfast burrito?
It was like eggs, onions. I got some chorizo. There was some peppers in there. It was just and sour cream, guacamole. Um, it was really really good.
Nice.
Yeah. We and then she ended up like taking me to this place called the Armory, which is an old military fort that the San Francisco National Guard used to occupy, but now houses the porn site kink.com. We took a tour of a couple of dozen porn sets. Uh, Definitely something out of the not out of the something out of the ordinary. Not
I was about to
you know
say
what I mean.
this is not something that you do in your everyday trip, and you say this is something that wasn't out of the ordinary. I'm like, what
Yeah,
you
right.
talking about, Sandy? I
You
don't know,
know.
Sandy. This is not something that I've ever done.
I think it would be pretty cool for you to check out. Um, it was interesting to see how like so they talked about um how like videos get shot, how things get produced, who works, how they work, and they're saying that the kink.com is actually one of the safest sites for girls to work at, because they're
Really?
totally in control the entire time. Yeah, like they take their models sort of like limits very very seriously. So everything that you see has been not like rehearsed but talked about. So sometimes you might come across something from kink.com that's a little bit blue, but everything's sort of like well within the range of the model's control.
I see.
Um, it was pretty interesting to say the least. We went to this place called Waco for sushi, which was like a 7 course sushi meal that was phenomenal. It was
Seven
really really
seven
good.
course sushi meal. That's insane.
Yeah, it was. I was full by the end of it. I was afraid that I might not be full, but that certainly wasn't the case in the situation.
Good.
We ended up actually getting dinner with another friend of ours from Governor School, who works out in Uber there now.
Really? Look at
So
you.
that, yeah, no, it was crazy
You're
to
meeting up with, yeah,
meet up with everybody.
that's cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. Last day, sort of went to this place called Universal Cafe, um, to get brunch. Uh, she kept saying like then and throughout the weekend that I really need to move out to San Francisco. I do really well there. Um, she kept saying, it's great that I was there for the weekend. While I was out there, it was definitely a very compelling thing to hear and see. The weather out there is phenomenal. They don't have too many seasons out there. It's cold in the summertime,
Yeah.
which blows my mind.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember going out there a couple times to visit, and it's chilly, like 50 at times, right? 50,
yeah,
60
and
degrees in summer. But is it
yeah,
like that year round? What's it like in the winter?
I'm not sure.
All
Uh,
right,
but what I do know is that like people are able to wear basically the same stuff all year round,
I
which
see.
is nice.
Yeah,
People,
December average highs 57, the average lows 47.
wow.
Yeah.
Um,
January is about the same too. Yeah, that's
oh
insane.
wow. Yeah, it's crazy. People are really nice out there. People are really like so like active. Um, it's it's definitely a little bit different than what New York has to offer. Now the thing is, that's something I felt pretty strongly when I was out there.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like you're surrounded by things. But even like landing today, I landed at like 7 a.m. I took the red eye in.
Yeah.
Um, it still seems like whenever I land here, it's like, you know what? The city's not bad. And I don't know if I'm feeling that because I'm nervous for moving, uh, or like nervous for like pondering a move. Um, but like today, I was walking around with my roommate, and it's I don't know. This city still kind of has a hold on me.
Yeah. So my cousins have been asking me a lot. They've been trying to convince me to move out to the West Coast or specifically move to Seattle. And if I like really think about it, it's not something that's easy to do. Moving to the West Coast, especially when so much like I think your whole family is on the East Coast, and at least immediate family, you know. Um, I don't have my whole immediate family on the East Coast anymore, but the East Coast is just what I know. It's where I've been for most of my life, and to just pick up things and move out there, it's that's tough. It's hard to
Right,
imagine doing.
right.
And the mentality,
Um,
like, when you describe this to me, I'm kind of thinking of like Mad Men. You know, when Don Draper had gone out and the last couple of seasons, gone from New York to California, and I know that was L.A., but like the even when I visit like California, the mindset just seems very different than what it is on the East Coast.
yeah,
Like people are just a little more relaxed, or more casual, they're slower, they're not as like in a rush. They take time to enjoy a lot their lives in general, is how it seems to me, at least. Whereas everyone on the East Coast is kind of more just like a hustle and bustle type of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so I was thinking like overall, right? Like on the flight back, like was it a good
Right.
weekend? Yeah, I think it was great. Was I disappointed that she was seeing other people? Sure. Um, that kind of goes without saying, right? But
Yeah.
was it crushing? I don't think so.
Okay.
Um, did it feel nice and warm to hear her bring it up throughout the weekend? How great and surreal it was that I was then in San Francisco? Yeah. No, I think the timing was definitely one of the main culprits in the missed opportunity between the two of us to explore anything physically. Uh, I do think it might have been unfair to assume that there would have been 100% opportunity for sex to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but part of me is also like, well, she was really not aggressive, but she was really about me moving, like flying out there, to
Yeah.
see her, and that sort of like sends a some kind of message. You know what I mean? Um, at least in my mind, it did. Now I might be totally off on that, but that's how I feel.
Okay.
Uh, I was, I felt like I played as best I could, um, and I didn't want to push unnecessarily, especially that first night because I didn't want to bomb or blow up the entire weekend. With a
Right.
misstep.
Right.
Uh, I think there's always space for something in the future potentially. Um, but also like long distance is not like a strong foundation for anything.
Right. For sure.
It's definitely not something that I would have truly explored. And also I think that me not being 100% forthright or aggressive or open with my feelings might have made her think that I didn't like think of this as more than what it might have been. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like maybe I should have actually just said something at some point like, "Hey, I'm really excited to see you this weekend. Uh, are you seeing anyone? I think I'm interested," or something along those lines. I don't know. I mean, that's a classic what if.
Yeah. You can never stop those, right?
Right. I'm just thinking like if it is a classic what if, then maybe it's not even truly worth exploring.
Hmm.
Because those are like those are those rabbit holes that you can really sort of get lost in.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I think though that overall my San Francisco trip was a lot of fun. I landed in on Monday at 1 a.m. like midnight. Got home at 1 a.m. Proceeded to do laundry and like ordered a breakfast sandwich and went to bed at 4 in the morning. My body was so like wired or confused and hungry and tired, but still needed to do laundry.
Yeah.
And then I headed into the office at around like 1 or 2 just to pick up my laptop. And then that was like the beginning of the Phoenix trip. Like I was in Phoenix that night.
Wow.
It was absolutely crazy. Phoenix was a lot of fun. The first part of that trip, the Monday to Thursday, was all work related. So that was like staying, like flying out with coworkers. One of the girls in my group that I ended up going to the Grand Canyon with, she rented a minivan, drove us to the hotel. It was a W in Scottsdale. Uh, every day we just had a ton of meetings. It was like a really big meet and greet for the team.
Hmm.
So we were meeting all of our engineers that are based out in Phoenix. Uh, and it was great because I had never met them before, and we're like starting production of our app, so it's nice to sort of put faces to a name and plan out everything so that we sort of have a very clear plan of what's about to happen.
Right.
And that was and then like I had Chick-fil-A for lunch. That was a lot of fun. Um, we got to hang out with them after work. We did a lot of happy hours. So it was good. The first half of the trip, you know,
Yeah.
we would be I went running every day.
Oh yeah. Right.
At like 6 in the morning, I dragged one of my coworkers out to go with me, and at 6:15 or 6:30 when we would leave the hotel, it would be like 85 degrees.
Okay.
And by the time we were done running, it would be in the mid 90s.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was up every day at 6 o'clock to get ready to go out and run, right? And then
yeah.
we would run, shower, get breakfast, go to work all day, come back, happy hour, more drinking at the bar. I went to bed every day at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then woke up at 6 and rinse and repeated.
Wow.
But it was good that I ran in the morning just to like either shake off as much of the any kind of potential jet lag that I might have.
Hmm.
or even just that super feeling of being super tired from like sitting all day in meetings and all that.
Yeah,
So I'm really happy that I did that.
that's
Uh,
good.
yeah. Um, Thursday night there was a burlesque show at the hotel, which
Really?
I didn't know was going down. But this was like not good burlesque. This was just like girls in like bras and high waisted underwear, shaking their bodies really really quickly to like some jazz. And I was like, that's not burlesque. I don't know if you ever been to a burlesque show, but
I
that's
haven't.
definitely not burlesque. So me and this one female coworker, we were just sort of complaining and critiquing all the girls. They look great, but it was just like you can't really call this burlesque, you know. Um, we uh we headed out to the Grand Canyon on Friday. Now here's where things get interesting. It's me and three coworkers, right?
Right.
And one of them's my engineer. One of them's one of them's one of the visual designers, and one of them's the product person. The product person, she was the one that drove the minivan throughout the week, and she said
Okay.
she was a good driver, and I was like, all right, cool. Like I didn't. I sort of like just assumed that she was a good driver when she said she was, and when she was driving us around during the week, it was like no issues. So I was like, this is totally fine. Um, and then when we went to go like on Friday to like we were gonna return the minivan, pick up like an SUV, and then head out. Like 10 minutes into the trip, we hit a minor boo boo. We were in the left lane, like at an intersection, like a 4 point intersection,
Okay.
and we were going to like we were in the left lane, and it was red, but there wasn't a left turn like light, right? So when the light turns green, you have to wait for oncoming traffic to go past first before you can go. They have the right of way. This is driving 101.
Right.
I think because we were all super excited that they were like I was sitting in the back seat, like the middle row of the van. The light turns green and she starts to turn left. But there's a bunch of cars coming at us full speed,
Yeah.
and I was like, Jesus, take the wheel away from this girl. So I just screamed because she was still talking, and I was like, and I was like, I yelled out her name, and like she freaked out. And this woman driving like in the opposite lane like gave us the finger. Um,
Wow.
and it was just like it's like one of those things like if you don't interact, if you don't drive as much as we do. I mean, since we don't drive as much as most people do, things like that will happen. You're just not used to those types of traffic patterns.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm glad that I saw something because I didn't want to die before the Grand Canyon trip began. You know. Um,
I feel
so
you.
she was so she was like, "Oh my god, that's never happened before. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." I was like, "It's fine, it's fine, it's fine." So we went and we picked up this Ford EcoBoost, like Ford Escape EcoBoost. A lot of the cabs in New York are that car, and so I let her drive up to the Grand Canyon, sort of smooth out her nerves. She drove really well. It was all in all, I think it was like a 4.5 hour drive from Phoenix to the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
We stopped off in Sedona, which is also super beautiful. There's a lot of red rock stuff out there. Um, and what's cool is when you're driving out in like open country like that, you can
Yeah.
see rainstorms out in the distance. And you can see
Nice.
the exact area where it's raining. Like around it, it's super clear, and there's this hazy like patch where you can see like the cloud is connected to the ground a little bit, and like, oh my god, it's raining that way.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Beautiful, beautiful drives all the way up. And then the second boo boo happened when we entered the Grand Canyon. We had to pay $30 to get into the Grand Canyon. I think it's a racket, but it's a really beautiful park. So we drive and we hit a 4 point intersection with stop signs everywhere. So that's one of those you just got to figure out who goes in first, who went in right before you, and then your turn. That's sort of that's how these things go. She drove up to the stop sign, and then before it was her turn to go, she just started to go.
Oh no.
Um, and there was a tour bus
Oh
that was
no.
turning into us, and they had already begun our turn, and my driver decided that it was her turn to go actually, and the bus driver honked his horn so loud, and then she threw up her. It's funny, my friend, she threw up her hands like, What did I do? I have the right of way. And I was like, that's not how these things work. That's not how any of this works. Oh my god, Reza, I was so scared.
Hey
I
man,
was so scared.
I know exactly how you feel, man. I know exactly how you feel.
Like, she said she was a good driver, but those are two big moments where we could have taken a hard L.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not looking to take a hard loss. You know what I mean? I'm looking to
Uh-huh.
enjoy a weekend.
Yeah, right.
Um, and so we get there and it's great, right? Because we parked in the South Rim, and we walked for a good 3 hours along the South Rim. And this was a ton of great photos that I took. Uh, Weather was nice. It was a little overcasty, but
Hmm.
it was so cool to see like into the Grand Canyon. And you're afraid of heights, right? A little bit.
Oh yeah. I saw your
Oh, so,
picture on Instagram, and I was like, I wouldn't do that.
oh yeah. Oh my god, I
Uh,
was so scared taking that photo. Oh my god, I was so scared. So like I've gone skydiving before to try and fight my fear of heights, but that's different because that you don't have a true perspective all the way down. But with the Grand
exactly.
Canyon, you can just sort of stare over the edge and be like, well, that's a bad day if I fall over. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is the park kind of just allows you to just sort of like run crazy. Like there's like those parts, they're just like, yeah, if you want to sit on the edge, go for it.
Mhm.
Um, it's so crazy. Like I'm surprised that more people don't die every year.
Do you have any idea how many people die every year?
Now, that's a good question, but whatever number you give me, I think that's gonna be really, really low. There's like
Okay.
these like rock formations that jut out that you people just climb off to, and dangle their feet off the edge.
I see.
So when you saw the photo of me, and I'll post a picture of that in the description as well. Um, it's really treacherous. Um, but it was a lot of fun. You can definitely feel the altitude when you're walking around because we were like 5,000 feet up, like close to a mile up.
Yeah.
Um, and you get. I had a constant light headache before I acclimated.
Really?
Um, yeah, it was nuts. Um,
I
but
wonder if we'll
then
have that problem in
I think we
Long
might a
Lake.
little bit, to be honest.
I see.
But it'll be fine. It wasn't like anything that like shut you down, but we're definitely gonna want to bring a lot of water and a lot of foods that like a lot of food,
Yeah.
even if it's just bars or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and it's definitely gonna be chilly up there, so I'm gonna be wearing compression gear and like I'm gonna bring my North Face jacket. Because we can always
Okay.
take stuff off, but you don't want to be like a mile up and be freezing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel you.
But I'm excited for that for our hike for sure. If it's anything like because there's a Grand Canyon hike where you can hike either from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top, and there's just a ton of switchbacks. And my
Right.
friend said it takes about 6 to 7 hours, and that's what ours is going to take round trip.
Yeah.
So that'll be
But
exciting.
like, yeah. I mean, it, the I imagine I'm very first of all, I'm very happy that we're going up first. Um, I wonder how hard it will be coming back down.
I think coming down is easy. I
I feel
think
like
it's
it
the
should be pretty
climb
easy.
up. Climb
Yeah.
up is always tough because with switchbacks, you never feel like you're making too much progress.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like the people say they lose count of how many switch they do like 38 switchbacks and they just lose count eventually.
Yeah.
No,
Um.
it should be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
No, I 100% am. I think that's gonna be such a fun thing.
Yeah.
Uh. Let's see. Um. But after our time at the Grand Canyon, I decided to drive because A, I needed to know what that car drove like, and B, we just had to put the stop to the whole operation.
You had to
Um.
switch it up a little bit.
I had
How
to
did you
switch it up.
phrase that? How did you phrase that? Well, you're
I
like,
was like,
let
"Hey, give me the
me.
keys." I was like, hey, give me the keys. And she goes, you want to drive? I go, yeah, I'm going to drive. And
All
what's
right.
interesting is sort of like, is like picking up a new rental car, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now, we rented a car for 2 full days in Arizona, and it only cost us $150.
How many days you said?
2 days, 2 full days, $150.
Okay.
And I drove 700 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Well,
miles
I
for
didn't
you.
drive. I didn't drive 700. I drove 500. My friend drove 200.
Okay.
Um,
Still, it's quite a bit.
but yeah, it was it was crazy. The Ford Escape EcoBoost car is really like video gamey, where like so obviously power steering makes every car like super drivable by anybody, but the acceleration pad is very jerky. Like you tap it a little bit and it just like starts to move forward.
Hmm.
Um, but then when you floor it, it like takes a while to pick up. It's really weird, and the brakes are super sensitive. So like for a while, I was like doing that like nervous first time driver thing, like doo doo doo, and I was like, no, I got. Everyone's like, are you sure you know how to drive? I was like, yeah, I know how to drive. I just gotta get, you know, I just have
Hmm.
to get used to how this car works.
Homegirl's
Um,
probably like, this dude stole the keys from me for this.
yeah, right. I was like, listen, I know how to make left turns. It seems so. Got him.
I don't know
But
how to brake, but I know how to make left turns.
yeah. We stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, and that place was packed. We knocked out so early though, because we were on the road by 8 a.m. and we checked in at around like 10 p.m. And like we showered, and then we booked 2 rooms, room for the guys, one for the girls. But after the girls were done showering, went to the girls' room for a little bit to watch some TV. But we were all like redlining, so we just like
Yeah.
decided to pass out. Like my head hit the pillow at 11:30, and I woke up at 7 a.m. the next day. It was the earliest I've fallen asleep in a long time.
Yeah.
Uh, but the next day we drove from the Grand Canyon to Page, Arizona, where we were gonna do these slot canyons and Horseshoe Bend. Horseshoe Bend's definitely. I'll put a link in the description of the photo I took. But Horseshoe Bend's one of those classic computer wallpapers that you've always seen.
Hmm.
And it was really cool to hike like the mile off the road to get there. But the drive over there was so beautiful. It reminded me of my drive in Utah. Um, when I went skiing that one time, my friend decided to do the backwoods, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not trying to die. Let me just take the
Yeah.
car and drive. There'd be
Yeah.
like massive mountains on one side, deep canyons on the other side, like huge swaths of plains. It was a really, really beautiful drive. And that was the first part of that drive was about 2 hours, I want to say, um, or maybe even three. No, actually, it was four. It was 4 hours because we left at 8 and we didn't get there till noon.
Okay.
Um, and it was nice because a lot of parts of that road were super empty. So we're just flying down this like it felt in certain parts it felt like post apocalyptic. Like you see these old mining towns or these old like huge structures, and it would just be us driving past it. It felt not Mad Maxy, but but it definitely felt like we were like exploring a new world.
Yeah.
A lot of like really really stunning vistas, like almost like limitless views on the horizon, which is really cool. There was one part of the drive up that I goofed. I didn't goof.
Oh.
What happened was it was a turn up a mountain, and the speed limit is at 30, but I was taking it at 50. And that was a little aggressive. So I braked a little hard, and everyone freaked out a little bit. But I was like, is it that serious? I don't know if it's that serious.
You know what, Sandy? When you come up here, I'll drive.
I want to drive. There's nothing wrong with me driving.
Yeah,
Have
we'll
I
see about
told you
that.
anything right now? Have I told you anything right now that makes you doubt my ability to drive?
Your braking sounds a little sketchy.
uh, but you're picking me up at the airport, though, right?
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that. We'll figure it out because I know you said you wanted to book it. So either I'll meet you at the airport or you rent the car and then you can meet me here, something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I figured we can decide what kind of car we want to rent together.
Yeah.
And we can just say that we're coworkers so that we can both be under the insurance.
Okay.
Um, so we don't have to pay extra.
Yeah, that works.
Um,
And then I have AAA, but the when I rented it, all you need is my the whatever number, and you'll be able to get that little discount from that.
no, okay. So yeah, well, it might be easier if you just come then.
Yeah, that's fine. It's easy enough
Um,
for me to get there, so that's no problem.
all right, cool. But yeah, we get there and then we hiked a little bit to see this thing called Horseshoe Bend, which is like it's almost like that the river makes a huge U and there's that rock structure in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it before. So there was that, and then right after that we did this Slot Canyon tour, which is basically what those like 127 hours movie where that took place. That was in
Right.
Utah, but this was in another place, and the lighting in there was so beautiful. I'll post a picture that I took in there. I don't want to post too
Okay.
many because I just took a boatload of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No, I hear you.
it was absolutely gorgeous. And what was crazy was they said that if it ever rains, that you have to get out of the slot canyon in like 5 minutes because the way the slot tunnels work with rain and the rain out there always kind of comes down in like downpours because of
Hmm.
the way the desert works out there. The water can get up to 6 feet in under 15 minutes
Really?
because the walls sort of like funnel all the water down to one point
Yeah.
and the sand can't absorb it fast enough. So they said in like 96, 11 people died in a flash flood. It was
Wow.
crazy. A flash flood scare me, but like to be trapped in a funnel of death doesn't seem like the doesn't seem like a place I want to be.
I think I can agree with that.
Yeah. Um. So after that, we ate at Jack in the Box. Which I had not done in many 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 years. And then we drove back, and it was a really awesome drive back. It was about five. It was a 5 hour drive. Um, and most of the highway that we took out there was like a one lane back and forth, either way. But like every
Yeah.
5 miles, it gave you a chance to pass people, and I must have passed 1,000 people. I averaged like 85 miles an hour. And then when I had to pass, I was hitting like 100, 105.
Really?
Yeah. Every so often you'd be caught behind like this like RV or Winnebago, and you'd be like, "Oh, man, this sucks." But we'd fly right past them
Yeah.
because it's serious out here. Um, there was it was crazy. We were driving and everything was all well and good. Stopped for some gas. And then we were in Phoenix with 5 exits to go, and two things happened. One, I was following this pickup truck, and we were in the middle lane. We were in all right, so there's technically 6 lanes, 5 regular lanes, and then an HOV lane.
Okay.
I was in the HOV lane for a good minute, but then I decided that driving 30 miles over the speed limit in the HOV lane was not a good look. And um, but there was nobody in the HOV lane because everyone out there is like in the car by themselves.
Yeah.
So I was blowing past people, and then my friends were like, you're in cop country. Um, you should probably slow down." But the other two people in the back were watching the UFC fight because they had started to stream.
Oh,
So
okay.
he was streaming it off his phone. And like explaining it to the girl who was driving the day before.
Yeah.
And so this pickup truck in front of me in the third lane starts to turn his left turn signal. It's like, okay, he's changing lanes. But then he starts to like move his truck to the right, and I go, well, that's unusual. That's not how turn signals work. And when he turned his truck, all of a sudden, there is this lazy boy in the middle of the
Oh shit.
highway. And so he swerved, and I was paying attention. And then me and the girl who was riding shotgun, we both kind of said what at the same time, and
Yeah.
then I didn't swerve violently, but I turned out of the way. So I
Okay.
appreciated the guy in front of me who put that left turn signal on, almost in
Yeah.
my mind to be like, oh, I'm letting you know that something's about to go down. When I put my left signal on, I'm going right because that's such an unusual move to do. So
Right.
that definitely caught my got my attention.
Yeah.
Um, and then so that was like like 5 exits away, 4 exits away. All of a sudden, I see him brake really hard. Now I'm giving him space, obviously, because we're on the highway. But he starts to brake and he starts to swerve a little bit back and forth to like buy as much ground as possible. And I was like, oh my god, something in front of us is really smoking. And it turns out there was this SUV that stalled out in front of us. So now this pickup truck in front of us, and the stalled car are at a full standstill in lane 3 of a 5 lane highway. So
Right.
that was stressful for me because I had to figure out how to turn into another highway lane
Yeah.
when I'm parked in a sense. So that was tough. But I was thinking like, so you're telling me that I've been driving for 5 hours through like mountains and deserts and plains and like 7,000 feet in altitude change. There was so many parts where you'd come over a mountain and you do like a not a hard bank turn, but kind of a hard bank turn, and you see a guardrail, and then you realize it's just like this huge scenic vista, and there's sheer drops on either side. So you're telling me I could drive through all that, but like I'm gonna get into an accident 3, 4 exits away from where we're dropping off the car. My nerves were so fried at the end of that drive. I won't
Yeah.
lie to you. I mean, that's a long drive. 5 hours on like the highway, and then
Yeah.
like a highway into the city. Um, we had to get gas, but when we returned the car, and my friend was like, just find the nearest gas station next to the airport, and she took us into the hood. No joke, we were straight in the hood. We were like, that mission, well, not the mission. The beginning of San Andreas, where everyone's riding those bikes. Like
Yeah.
those kids everywhere. And when we went to the gas station, there was razor wire everywhere, bulletproof glass. The doors were locked, and I was like, "Hey, you guys are totally open. How do I get in?" He like told me to go around. It was like one of those old school like bank teller windows where you got to put your card in and slide it through.
Yeah.
Um, like, and if I wanted I wanted a bottle of water, he had to like go into the store himself and like pick it up for me. So I
Okay.
told him I told him $20 on pump five, and I stood outside and just everyone was just loitering. I was like, all right, everyone, keep your eyes peeled, lock the doors. But it was fine. We took JetBlue on the way out at 11:20. We got to see Ronda Rousey. Uh, like 15 minutes before, like she came out 15 minutes before we were gonna start boarding, and I go, "There's no way this fight's gonna take that long." And it was 34 seconds, and we were
Yeah.
eating at this Mexican like restaurant in the terminal, and I jumped up at the end of 34 seconds, and I yelled out, "She fucking knocked her out!"
Did
And
you
everyone looked
really?
at me. Everyone looked at me. I
You
like jumped
yelled it?
up. Yeah, I yelled it.
Ah, come on.
My hands were on my head. It was like a total knee jerk reaction. And all these guys at the bar were like, "You guys are watching the Ronda Rousey fight." I was like, "Yeah, come over here. They're gonna show you the replay right now." Um, it was crazy. I totally
You
lost my mind.
you did. It sounds like it. You did not keep your cool, Sandy.
I did not
People,
keep my cool.
you know you ruined it for somebody because somebody had that shit on DVR and was so excited to get home and watch it, and you stand up and blow it for them.
Can you DVR pay per view?
Your good question. I have no idea, but I will tell you that somebody somewhere it was definitely just gonna run that stuff on like a stream somewhere. Just run that back.
Um, maybe. I don't know. I think we did them a disservice, rather a service, by telling them
I have no
exactly what
idea.
went down.
I have no idea. But I,
Um,
I, di- I did wake up and I saw that on Reddit this morning, and it was like she knocked her out in what like 34 seconds.
yeah,
So I was like, oh, that's gonna exist in GIF form. Like I can get that up right now.
oh yeah,
Saw like someone was like they're just gonna start having to stream Ronda Rousey's fights on Vine.
yeah. Um, it was absolutely crazy. Uh,
She came out so like she's super aggressive when she comes out, and I haven't I don't pay attention too much attention to fights. I think we talked about that last like recently when we talked about the last UFC event. But I had heard that the other chick had said something about committing suicide, and supposedly she didn't know, but Ronda Rousey's father had committed suicide when she was young, so she took personal offense to that one. Was quite upset about it, as you can probably understand.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then she kept saying like don't she's in a like I hope she doesn't cry when I beat her. So when Rhonda had knocked her out, she was like kind of like walking away, and like the camera like you could read her lips. She says don't cry, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh yeah, it was such a huge smack talk moment. But
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey in that moment was really sloppy with her technique. They just came out slugging and wailing on each other, and you
Oh
could
yeah.
tell when the Brazilian woman fell down that she didn't go for the takedown because that's Ronda Rousey's mo. She would have gone after her when she fell down immediately, but
Yeah.
you knew she wanted to knock her out. And
She
right
took it
before
slow.
the punch, when she had her against the fence, she kneed her in the chest really solidly,
Hmm.
and you know that took out a lot of gas.
Yeah.
That was like in the Conor McGregor fight.
Yeah. It just kind of opened her up.
It just opened
She
her
got that.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I mean, it was also a really solid strike to the temple. Like, I don't care how big you are, that'll mess you up.
For sure.
And that's why you saw her, it was lights out. And what was funny though is she fell on that straight out of Compton sign. Like, that was perfect product placement.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying that she knocked her straight out of Compton. It was so funny. Um, but yeah, we took a JetBlue flight at 11:20, 11:30, and we landed at 7 a.m. this morning. So I did some laundry and I took a nap from like 12 to 4, but my body is uh my body is reeling.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally imagine. I do want to make sure we end this at an appropriate time so you can sleep.
Well, I appreciate that.
Um,
So that was my week and a half, really.
yeah. Well, I'll just quickly say what I mean over the last like week or so, I've just kind of been doing my thing with work. My weekends have been relatively uneventful. I've been hanging out with my uncle and my cousins, which has been really nice. Just like taking it easy. This
Mhm.
weekend I went to Seafair. So today I went to Seafair, which is it's like an air show, but also like s- not even speedboats, like boats, like racing boats. What are they
Whoa.
called? The ones that look like spaceships almost. They look like planes, but on water. I don't even know what the official names for them is, but it
Like
was
those like the ones with full teams on them?
yeah, like it's I guess just a racing boat. They're super fast, super loud, and
Yeah.
very skilled drivers for them. And it
Right,
was
like
really cool
super
to see
light,
them.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really cool to see them. But it looked like there were only like three boats that were really in it. Like, or so there were. I saw like three heats of this. So basically, when we were driving there over the bridge, they had one heat. I was getting really frustrated with how many people were rubbernecking because there was no reason for this traffic other than people trying to look back and watch this race. Like my uncle
Ah,
probably did like 20 or 25 take like double takes to watch the race. And I'm like, you can't even see anything from this angle. All they're doing is going around the turn and you just see the water splashing up. We were going to be
yeah.
there soon enough anyway, so there was no reason to really be looking over at that point. Um,
Right.
but so we checked that out. There were a few different planes that they had. I don't have the list anymore, but they had when we first got there, they had this group from France doing some shows. I'm gonna open up the schedule because it was really because I do want to tell you what they were. But so there was an F-22 plane, which was probably my favorite part. I don't with it, even though so it was my favorite, but it didn't even come close to going to full power. It did all sorts
Wow.
of like cool acrobatics, but it's just so incredibly loud. So anytime it would turn away from you, the lad was just too intense, and like little kids were really getting like frustrated. They were, they would scream. I think the first time they heard it when it was really loud, and like I would see parents like covering their kids' ears whenever it would turn towards us or turn away from us. Um, but just the maneuvers and like the engineering when you see it in the sky, if it was like flat across the sky, it's really hard to see it because it's so thin across the wings. Um,
Oh.
it's incredibly loud. Like you can like if you you would definitely hear it, but you wouldn't see it. I guess you would
Mm-hmm.
hear it after it already passed you. So that's kind of that's the point, I guess. Um, so let's see. They had where am I here? So yeah, they had the F-22, and then they also had a it was the Flying Heritage Collection. So they had the F-22 Raptor, and then they also had a like a
Wait, the F
19
22 Raptor is now part of the Heritage Collection?
yeah, because they had it fly side by side with a like a 1965 Mustang plane. Um, it
Oh,
was
that's
just
really
cool to
cool.
see. It was cool to see like the different like what like 50 or so years of technology, like the upgrades, um, how fast the F-22 is. Um, and then they had a Harrier jet come out after that, which was also really nice. Um, so the Harrier jet, kind of it like it was almost posing for cameras, just like rotating over and over again. Um,
Oh, that's really cool.
yeah, then the Blue Angels came out, and I was really disappointed when the Blue Angels came out. Not because the Blue Angels were disappointing, but where we were in the pit, which is where the race boats were when they were getting maintenance. And after the Blue Angels, they were having another heat for the races, so they needed to move people out of the way so they can get the boats into the water. And so we just happened to be standing in front of some of the boats that were going to be racing, so we needed to be shifted over, and so it just really took away for like, especially at that point, I was like really into it, just like watching. I took a few videos, not too many pictures. I took a few videos, but for the most part, I was really just watching because the videos and pictures just don't do any type of justice to what it's like to actually see it. So I just figured, what's the point? And I'm sitting there watching it, and like all of a sudden, people are telling us to move down. So I'm just trying to move down, but watch at the same time. So every now and then, I'll like try to pause and just look because they'll be doing a passover. And at one point, some dude like kind of taps me, and I don't exactly remember what he said. Um, like there was a lot of space. Like people were standing up front, and then there was like walking space, and then there were people staying in the back. And it wasn't really walking space like they designated it like that. It's just kind of how it was. And so I just stopped for like 2 seconds to look, and then this guy taps me in those 2 seconds and like asked me to like move over because I guess I wasn't even blocking him, but regardless, shifted over.
Yeah.
But the Blue Angels were really cool just to see them fly in formation. They typically have four planes flying like the diamond formation, then they have two solo planes, and they do a lot of like close passes. But because of where we were, like in front of all these boats, and these boats are elevated off the ground, every single time they would pass, those two solo planes would pass, I would never see it. So I could never actually see how close they were passing. Um, After that, they had another heat of the races, the boats, and so that's the first time I actually saw the boats like up close. And so that's when I saw like there was really like three boats that were in it, um, and then all the other boats seemed they were always getting lapped. Maybe not all the other boats, but several of the other boats were getting lapped, and they were just kind of obstacles for the front three boats because they would have to try to get around them, and if it so happened that first place was trying to get around those boats at a turn, it would really throw him off, and he would lose some time against the other dude behind him. Um, but I'm pretty sure that guy who was in first place won all three heats that I saw. So
Wow.
I don't know if his boat was just that much better, if he had pole position, because I could never see the start, so I don't actually know how they started, if it was a staggered start, or if they were
Mm-hmm.
all even, or I just
Right.
don't know if he was just a better driver overall. Um, but I did see like he had like the first place trophy in front of his boat when we were first getting there. So for at least for one of his heats, he'd won. Um, After that, they had a 747 kind of do a low passover, and it was painted. It was painted for Seahawks. for the Seattle Seahawks, and I start to realize like how the Seahawks, like the fan base in this town, seems really really strong. I think the 12th man, like I think it's amazing marketing that that team's done because it's not like a private team. It seems like it seems like it's just a city thing, and people like you see Seahawks jerseys everywhere. Another jersey that you see everywhere are the Seattle soccer team. I don't know their team name, but
Sounders.
I see their jerseys everywhere. The Xbox, I see their
Yeah.
jerseys everywhere.
The
Um,
Seattle Sounders.
yeah,
It's
and then the last,
Do you think that they're real Seahawks fans though?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're it's I feel like it's all you're always going to have that problem whenever you go to somewhere with the local you go to a particular city. It's so much easier, I think, to be a non-local fan. So like you and I, we can be fans of the Colts and the Chargers, respectively. And whenever we see like when we see a fan in the wild, it's kind of like, oh, that's a true fan. Like you don't see non-real fans wearing like Chargers or Colts jerseys in like Delaware. You know?
Um, that's fair. I mean, I have seen some Doug Flutie ones, but that always throws me off. Like you don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
Um,
But
that's cool. I'm excited to try to see what that's gonna look like when I get out there.
yeah. Then the last thing we saw was a C-17, so the Air Force C-17, and it did a couple passes, and then we headed out. So I mean that's all I really did this week. I have this week off of work, so I'm gonna be doing a lot to catch up and present some results with my advisor. So I'll be doing some my old research work, which I'm excited to do. It's been too long since I've been able to dedicate too many hours in a single day. Like I can maybe dedicate an hour or two um, a day on my work back at home, and there's just a lot that I want to do. So I'm excited for this week to be able to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
yeah.
Um, are you reading, watching, or listening to anything new this week?
So listening to I've been listening to well I haven't even listened to the whole thing, but Lil Dicky, do you know who that is?
No. Who is that?
He's a rapper. He's a rapper on YouTube, but he makes a lot of like these clever, like silly videos. So he had one song that you may have heard of, called Ex Boyfriend, I think is what it's called, and
Oh yeah.
that went viral, and like a few of his other songs have gone viral, and he just came out with a song and a CD called Professional Rapper. And so the song, I like the song a lot. It's with Snoop Dogg, right? But it's not like Lil Dicky does a couple verses and Snoop does a verse. It's like an interview process where Lil Dicky comes in and he's trying to interview to work with Snoop's company, right? And so he'll say a couple lines and Snoop might interject and say something and then he'll come back and say something else. It's almost like him giving his resume, his history as a rapper, and like explain why he feels he deserves a shot, considering especially since he's not like a hard like hood rapper or anything like that, you know. Um, so I like that song, but I haven't listened to the whole CD. I've only listened to like four or five songs off of it. I haven't had much of a chance to listen to it after that. Um, watching I've been watching BoJack Horseman on Netflix. I don't know if you've
How is
seen that.
that?
It's good. I A lot of people. So Lena finds it silly. We watched like an episode or two last year. The first season came out. It's not like a comedy. There are funny elements of the show, but it's not necessarily a comedy. It's a pretty serious show at times. Like it deals with depression. It deals with like unhappiness. Like BoJack. So BoJack is a former he's a former sitcom star. He was a star of this sitcom called Horsing Around. Now I think a lot of people find the show silly because he's a half horse, half man, right? And just about every character in the show is an animal, but they're like human. They stand on two legs and they speak like, you know, they speak like us. The one human that I recall, there are a couple of humans in the show, but one of the main characters is voiced by Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. Um, so
Really?
yeah, I've been enjoying that show. There's like I think I have two episodes left in the season. And then reading, I just started The Martian finally. I started it yesterday, so it came through on my from my library, I think 2 days ago. I downloaded it
Nice.
yesterday, and I was reading it like all throughout my downtime today. So I think I've already read like 70 pages of it.
You like it,
But
don't you?
I've really been enjoying it. Yeah,
It's a lot of fun. You can
yeah,
really tell that like there's almost a humanity in that captain's log.
yeah, right.
Um, no, I know I like the fact that you well, I'm not like I'm happy that you were able to start to read that book. 'Cause I
Yeah,
know for a minute it was still in somebody else's possession in a sense from the
yeah.
library.
Yeah, so I have um so what I do is so I use this app called Overdrive. I think I may have talked about it briefly before, but I have two library accounts, one with my local library at home, but then I also have a library account at my university. And so at home, I think there were like 9 people ahead of me on the reserve list. When I checked my university, there were only two. So I jumped in on that queue, and it came through a couple days ago. So I've been flying through it so far. I'll
Very
probably
good.
continue reading tonight.
Yeah, I think you'll blow right through it.
Yeah. So what
Um,
about you? What are you listening to?
I'm listening right now. Uh, I've been listening to a lot of like just playlists, especially with all the driving that I've been doing. We've been doing a lot
Yeah.
of '90s playlists, so that's just a lot of fun to sing along to, like Mariah, Whitney. Um, I mean, we all know all the words. Let's be real. Watching right now, I'm still watching True Detective, The Brink, Ballers. I mean, I
Yeah,
definitely like True
ballers.
Detective now. The last week's episode was really, really, really good. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was just really good and it got me back in it. I
Okay.
haven't been watching any other shows. And reading, I'm still reading the Little Paris Bookshop.
Okay.
So I'm still making my way through those.
Okay.
Um, but I think that's it for me.
Yeah, same for me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, my name is Sandy.
I'm Reza.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.